Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. In this lecture, inshallah, we will be introducing malware analysis. So first of all, we will be able to understand what is malware, what malicious actions those malware can perform, what is malware analysis, and how can we safely analyze any malicious software in our environments. And at the end, we will be able to introduce two different ways of analyzing malware, such as either like analyzing malware in VirtualBox, in real machines, or sometimes in sandbox. So first of all, let's know what is malware. Malware is actually a malicious and then software. It is a combined of a malicious software. So malware is a code that performs malicious activities, malicious actions. And this malware can be in different forms. It can be either executable script code. What does that mean? Usually when I say malware, I mean an applications, right? So an executable, when we run or click on this executable, it will perform malicious activities. So we can find this malware as executable, and we have different type of executable. If I am, for example, dealing with Windows, I might have executable.exe, a file that ends with .exe. If I have, for example, Linux, I might have a .elf, which is executable linkable format file. So when those files are actually clicked, it will be installed and perform several actions. What is script? So this is executable. Okay, but what is actually script? What do I mean by script? Script is actually a fileless or is not a complete program, but it's written in script language. It can be written in Python and JavaScript and in many other programming languages. It does not require any installation. It is called fileless. And we can see some files that ends with .sh, and we can know that these are scripts. I'll show you here. When I go to Malware Bazaar is actually contains a database or data set of a lot of malware. So we can see here that there are a lot of malwares. And those malware, the date of release, and the hash value of this malware, the type. Also, if I would like to download this malware, download this sample, I can click on this to download it. So we can see here .exe, which is executable.elf, which means executable linkable file. And a Linux format. We have also sh. Sh means that this is actually a script, either written in Python, PowerShell, JavaScript that does not require any installation. It is a fileless. So we can also download this. Okay, but analyzing it would be different than analyzing executable. So it can be also script and it can be code. What do I mean by code? Code is actually part of executable. Code means I have a malicious code within like large application. So I have a few lines that are malicious within a regular normal application. So hidden in other software, malicious code inside the legitimate applications. Okay, so after we do know that they come in different forms, I would like to understand how do they transfer from the attacker to the victim machine. They can be transferred through many forms. They can be transferred through either email, web application by visiting malicious website, through USB, through, for example, social media applications, etc. Those malware can perform several malicious activities. What are the malicious activities that can be performed by the malware? They can crash or slow down the computer. They can steal some sensitive information, such as phishing email that steals sensitive information, such as credentials, financial data, etc. They can have unauthorized access to the victim system, such as back doors that have permanent access or like unauthorized access to the victim systems. They can spy on what you are doing, like for example through keystrokes, through keylogger, etc. They can send a spam email to you. They can engage you in a distributed denial of service attack. So I know that in distributed denial of service attack, the attacker send some malicious packets to the victim to overwhelm the victim, such as synflood attack. So in this example, the attacker can use your computer as a bot, and you, without your knowledge, you will send that send packet, that you will send the synfload to the victim. So instead of showing that this attack comes from the attacker, it will be shown that the denial of service, distributed denial of service, come from different bots, from different IP. And also, some of the malicious activities performed by the malware is that they can encrypt your files and requires you to pay some amount called ransom in order to decrypt these files. So looking up the files on the computer and holding them for ransom. Once you provide the ransomware, they will be able to decrypt your file and you will be able to see your files. Now, after understanding that the malicious activities performed by malware, what are the type of malwares? There are plenty types of malware. One common malware is actually virus or worm. Virus and worm, both of them has one shared functionality. Virus and worm can replicate themselves, can spread themselves, can copy itself and spread to other computers. So this is functionality by virus and worm. So how can I differentiate then between virus and worm? If they have the same functionality, how can we differentiate between them? Virus actually spread itself without user intervention, without user interaction, without even, virus replicate itself with user intervention, with user interaction. So if I have a file and this is a malicious virus, it will not spread unless I click on this file. Then it will spread. But the worm can spread without user intervention, without user interaction. So a virus needs user intervention, whereas a worm can spread without user intervention or interaction. I'll give you an example of virus and worm. One of the common viruses is actually a virus called I love you. It spreads via email in 2000. So this virus is actually sent via attachment in email. So if I am as a victim, click on the attachment, then it will spread and send to all people that I have communicated with before through my email. An example of one called WannaCry. WannaCry was actually spread in 2017, and it is actually a worm. It spreads very rapidly. It affects a lot of people, and it affected UK and then Russia, US, and many others. So I will show you here. This is WannaCry.
BBC News on May 12, 2017, the day of the WannaCry ransomware attack, detailing the events.
It looked at first like an attack just on hospitals in the UK, but it's now becoming clear that this malicious software has run riot around the world. Russia, the United States, and many points in between have been hit by what's now a common form of cyber.
It spreads around the globe. So this is WannaCry worm. And it does not require any action from the user. Also, we have a Trojan. What's Trojan? Trojan is actually has a historical story. There is something called Trojan horse. What's Trojan horse? I will show you the Trojan horse here. So this is a Trojan horse, okay? What's Trojan horse? What's the history of this Trojan horse? Trojan horse, there is kind of a war between Greek and another community. So there was a war, And the Greek send this Trojan horse, it's a wooden horse, as a gift to their enemy. They're saying that, okay, this is a gift. We would like to have a peace and we will not do any malicious things to you. This is a big wooden horse as a gift. And they pretend to leave the place. Then, after that, at night, it's found out that this horse contains some actually people inside. So within this horse, there are some people inside. Some people inside, they came out and they opened the gate. They let the Greek enter this city and affected the city. So what do we learn from Trojan horse? We learn that it seems as a horse, but actually there are some enemies inside. There are some soldiers inside. The same thing apply for Trojan malware. Trojan malware seems it is a normal, shows a regular program that to track users to install it on their system, but once installed, it can perform malicious activity. Example of this is actually in 2000 and 1200 PC, the Greek gave a Troy as a big wooden horse as a gift and they pretended to leave at night. And there are a lot of Trojan. Sometimes you download an application as a benign, regular, normal, but it turns out that this application is actually slows down your computer or does some destroyable actions on your computer. Also, we have backdoor or remote access Trojan called ROT. What is backdoor? Backdoor is actually, it is kind of you have a house and there is a door in the backyard, in the back. So the attacker can visit the home whenever they want without your knowledge. So backdoor enables attacker to gain access and execute command on the compromised system. So one of the very well common example of backdoor or ROT is actually called Nidrat. Nidrat. So here's Nidrat. I will show you. Here's Nidrat.
فيروس هذا 524 خادم ومن خلال هذا الأمر أصيب أكثر من 24 ألف جهاز بالفيروس هذا. إيش كان يقدر يسوي الفيروس هذا؟ كان يسوي مهام جدا كثيرة منها تسجيل ضربات اللي هو الكيبورد وأيضا
So this is actually a backdoor, but it does perform a lot of malicious activities such as opens the camera, record the keystrokes, which is kind of a keylogger, spy through the webcam, steals file, etc.
الوصول للسي ام دي وايضا فتح الكام على الضحيه وتصوير الضحيه وايضا تصوير الشاشه وايضا سحب الملفات الخاصه بالضحيه يعني يدخل على الجهاز ويسحب كامل الملفات اللي موجوده على الجهاز. كان يقدر ينصاب الشخص بالفيروس هذا كان يقدر ينصاب من خلال اللي هو بريد انتحالي او الدخول على صفحات ضاره. طيب من هو المطور الخاص بالفيروس هذا اللي سوى الهوائل هذه كلها؟ المطور هو ناصر مطيري كويت الجنسيه. المستند اللي تشوفه الان هذا
So this is actually an example, very well-known example of Nitrat backdoor. Also, we have adware. What is adware? Adware means it pretends. Sometimes we download some applications. It's free, but it comes with adware, so it displays some advertisement to the end user. It's like kind of unwanted advertisements to the user. And this usually gets delivered via free downloads and can forcibly install software on your system. So it seems that you download an application, but this application actually contains some advertisement, and there's this very unwanted advertisement. A very well-known example of adware is actually Fireball. Fireball was released in 2017. Identified, sorry, 2017, and it's bundled with free software to hijack browser and show some advertisement. And it affects over 250 million people and turns them into zombies. So I'll show you here Fireball adware infected 250 million computers. And researchers have discovered new adware variant named Fireball. Fireball is believed to have been developed by Chinese digital marketing agencies. So these marketing agencies, they inject themselves into specific application and publish or like share some unwanted advertisement to users. But not only this, it also contains some malicious activities, such as it turns all those infected devices as a zombies. So zombies means they become under the control of the attacker. So 250 million devices comes under the control of the attacker. And the Chinese Digital Marketing Agency can uses those 250 million devices for any malicious activities. Also, we have botnet. What does botnet mean? Botnet, from the name, implies bot. So bot is actually a group of computer infected with the same malware. Do you know when we, for example, have when I have a denial of service, so here is the attacker, and the attacker actually have, for example, multiple bots, those called bots, and here bots, and each bot is actually targeting like several devices. So if I perform, for example, distributed denial of service, the attacker has a lot of bots that he turns them into zombies to target the victims. So the victim knows that the things does not come from one source or from multiple sources. They don't find the identity of the actual attacker. Also, we have something called information stealer. What's information stealer? Information stealers means that a malicious software that is used to steal some credentials. Do you know when we have some phishing emails, etc.? So this is an example of it. Also, not only a malicious, not phishing email, but also we have keyloggers. Keyloggers, when you type anything in your key, if the victim is infected with the keylogger, anything that he types with the keywords, with the keys, with the keyports, it will be sent to a file. This file will be sent later to the attacker, so the attacker understand what keys he types. So for example, if he log into his bank account and then he types his username and the password, the username and the password will be understood, will be sent to the attacker. Then the attacker can use this username and password to log into the bank account. Also, sometimes the attacker actually encrypt the data during the transmission or in the file. So I like if X is a victim, X will the keylogger will store all the keystrokes in a file, and this file will be encrypted. So if X is trying to access this file, he will see encrypted data, meaningless data. However, this meaningless data will be sent to the attacker. The attacker will decrypt these encrypted data, and he will be able to see the username and the password and all the keystrokes that he types. Also, we have ransomware. What's ransomware? Ransomware is very good. I will give you a very good example of this. So ransomware is malware that encrypts people's device and does not decrypt it unless the victim pays something called ransom fidya. So unless he pays money to the attacker. One of the good example of this is a hotel So a hotel in Europe has been affected by a ransomware in 2017. So the attacker encrypts the all the keys that used to access the rooms. So residents inside the room cannot get out from the room, and guests outside the room cannot access their room, and I think they stay for like 24 hours, and then the hotel was enforced like because of this. They were actually paid a ransom to the attacker via Bitcoin, so even to hide their identity, so the hotel does not know who is behind this attack. And actually nowadays entities enforce the companies to not pay any ransom to the attacker. So therefore they are enforced the companies to do some backups and do any other mitigations options to avoid the implications that comes from the ransomware. Also, we have rootkit. What is rootkit? Rootkit is actually from the names. Root means the root privilege, the admin privilege, the admin account. Kits means multiple softwares that are multiple, like software that are implement this rootkit. So rootkit, the advantage or the point of this rootkit is usually it hides itself. It's not easy to detect rootkit. So they can remain hidden on the computer. Also, cyber criminals have the ability to remotely control the whole computer, such as backdoor. And the term rootkit is a connection of the two words root and kit. Root is the root privileges, root account, admin account, while the kit is the software required to install the rootkit. Also, we have downloader and dropper. What's downloader or dropper? Downloader or dropper is an interesting thing because it is a malicious software. It is a malicious software in its own, but it downloads other malicious software. Therefore, sometimes we see like a malicious software, but it drops like 10 files, 15 files, 3 files. So it performs a lot of malicious activities. So downloader or dropper malware designed to download or install additional malware components. The point that I would like to mention is that sometimes we will be able to see one malware with multiple types. So I can see a Trojan that is also a downloader. It seems like it's a benign, but it performs some malicious activity. And this Trojan actually download other malicious activities. So it's Trojan and downloader and a dropper. We can also see some, for example, rootkit, but this rootkit also is a spyware. So we can see multiple forms of one malware. Now, how can we analyze this malware? If I do know these are different types of malware, how can we analyze them safely? The first important thing in malware analysis is to analyze the suspect binary or the suspect malicious file or the suspect executable or the script or the code in a safe environment. I should not run it on my computer where I have my files. No, I have to have a safe environment. How can I have the safe environment? These safe environments can be in different formats. It can be either virtual machines. So for example, virtual machines, or it can be a regular machine, a computer that you have, but it is useless. You don't want to use it for any other thing. Or you might have something called sandbox. Sandbox is kind of like, for example, here is Joe Sandbox. Joe Sandbox, you can like log into it, and then yeah, you can log into it, and then you will be able to, for example, you will be able to perform analysis within this cloud application. So analyzing the suspect in a binary in a safe environment to identify the characteristics. So we need to analyze it in a safe environment, and in order to see its behavior, its features, its characteristics, in order to gain better understanding of what does this malicious activity or what does this malicious software does. Now we need to understand signatures. There are several signatures. The signatures is actually known pattern of attack. And it's kind of a fingerprint of a malware or attack. So once I identify, therefore some malware has specific signature. And once this signature is known, all the antiviruses will be able to detect this malware easily. And there are different types of signatures, two types, the host-based and the network-based. From the name, we can understand that the host-based signatures focus on the hosts. What does that mean? Focus on the host, focus on the device. What are the processes, like if the software or the malware infect this host, what processes will be created, what registry keys will be changed, what, for example, files will be created, etc. So host-based intrusion detection system installed in a host, and then they can monitor traffic that are originated and coming to that particular host only. And we can understand the host-based signatures by identifying files, registry keys, or victims' computer that indicate an infection. While the network signature, no, we are focusing on actually the packet, the network traffic, the packets, the suspicious connection to different IPs, the malicious connections to malicious URL, like IPs, etc. So we are focusing on the network traffic. So network intrusion detection system positions your intrusion detection system at the entry and the exit point of data from your network to outside world. So we need, in this way, to find the pattern that this malware create when it's, for example, exit our device and like leave the whole network. But here we are focusing inside the host, but here from the host to another hosts. For the malware analysis, there are several types of malware analysis. Simply, there are two types, and under each type, there are other two types. So we have basic and advanced. What's the difference between basic and advanced? Basic means quick understanding. I would like to get a quick understanding of what's going on. While advanced, no, deep technical understanding of what's going on. Basic has two types. It has static and dynamic, and advanced has also static and dynamic. So we have basic static analysis, basic dynamic analysis, advanced static analysis, and advanced dynamic analysis. Let's go to the basic static analysis. What is basic static analysis? Basic static analysis is the simplest way of analysis. It does not require running of any application. So let's say that I have here some malicious software, and those malicious software are actually, I downloaded them from Malware Bazaar, okay? I have these malware, I downloaded some of them, and I have them here. How can I perform the basic static? Basic static means I will not click on them. I will not run them. What I will do, I will go to, for example, VirusTotal application, and I will say, I will choose the file, please. I will choose the file, then please check it. It says that, okay, this is a file, and 36 out of 72 security vendors flagged this file as a malicious. So, okay, this is a suspicious of malicious activity. And the common popular threat label, it belongs to a Trojan horse. Okay, so it's belongs to Trojan, and there is another category, it belongs to Trojan and downloader. So it seems it's benign, it seems it's maybe related to films, movies, but it is actually not, and it download other applications. And here we will see all the security vendors and how do they analyze it. For example, we can go to Kaspersky. Kaspersky says that this is Trojan and downloaded. We can see antivirus of Microsoft. They say, okay, this is a Trojan. And many other things. Alibaba, they mentioned that this is undetected. We don't have a clear signature of it, so we cannot easily detect it. And not only this, in the basic static, while we are not running the file, we can go to the details. We can see the hash value of it. So we can see the hash value in MD5, SHA-1, SHA-256, and the relation. What will I be able to see in the relation? In the relation, I will be see if this executable contains some URL in the code, and what are these URLs. So I will see that, okay, it contains this URL, and this URL returns 300 status, which means redirection. Because if you remember an HTTP response code, not 300, we have 100, 200, which means, okay, 300, etc. So we can see that if I see any 300s, this means that there is a redirection. Going back to the VirusTotal, I have seen that when I click, it will redirect me on another thing. But when I click on this, it will be okay. I will be able to access this. When I try to access this, it will give me 400. 400 means what? 400 means, I think, user or client error, which means incorrect. Yeah, a client error, which means incorrect. So this link is incorrect, actually. and all of them will be, if I click on them, it will give me normal response. But some of them are actually malicious because it's detected by some security vendor that these are actually malicious. Okay, what are the contacted domain? Is there any is there any domains or URL? Is there any domains contacted? Is there any IPs within this application? So when they are trying to access the code inside this executable, they found some IPs, and some of these IP are actually contained as a malicious. So I find that this IP and this IP flagged as a malicious by one of the vendors, and it is originated from Japan, and so forth. The great interesting thing is that we can see this graph summary. So this seems executable, and this executable drop and download 10 files, and it has actually 6 contacted IPs within this code, and there are 3 execution merits. So 3 execution merits means that when some applications are like those are parents, when they are clicked, this will be activated, and this will be activated, and it will drop 10 files. Another example, I will take another example. I took this, so let me take this one. Okay, so it says that this is, for example, Trojan. Kaspersky says that it's Trojan and spyware at the same time. And we can also see the relations. We can see if there is any communication here. So this is an executable file that has 1 parent. When it was a click, this one will be activated, and it dropped 10 files. Okay, and it is associated with 7 applications. So this is the basic aesthetic, examining without running the executable and without viewing the actual instructions, because I let the virus total like inspect the code and check everything inside, and view malware without looking at the instructions such as virus total or strings. Strings is a command line application that when I type strings, then the application, it will list all the strings in terms of IPs, URLs, any keywords. Technical indicator gather the basics. Statics analysis can include file names, hash values, file type, file size, and by antivirus detection tools. So if this is the basic static, what is the basic dynamic? Basic dynamic require execution, require clicking with the file in order to see its behavior. So you need to see its behavior, and you need to see its functionality by clicking, by running it. But the most important is that we need to be very careful and do this in a tested environment. What we'll be able to see, for example, what are the processes that was affected, and the memory, maybe one of the let's say process that should be I should have one instance. Maybe when I run this application, it creates a process with the same name of a process that should exist one. So I have like duplication of a unique process, and this is not acceptable. This means that this is suspicious behavior. So it's easy but requires safe test environment. And after we do understand the basic static and the basic dynamic, we will go to the advanced static and advanced dynamic. Advanced static and advanced dynamic requires a lot of knowledge in self-programming language. For example, in the advanced static, it requires assembly language, and we do need to reverse engineer the whole code. So we need to reverse engineer the whole code in order to see what's going on. So we can use something called IDA. So this is IDA reverse engineering toolkit, and we will open the malicious software through IDA, and we will see how it's affect the registers, and what are the things affected within this things. Inshallah, we will take this in a reverse engineering course in the upcoming year. Also, For the advanced dynamic, we will use some debugger. We will insert this malware within a debugger and run it and see how it affects the process. So examine internal states of running malicious executables. There are several malware sources. A lot of them, such as Malware Bazaar, such as Virus Bay, such as, for example, if I click and let's say the zoo, the zoo is a live malware repository. And if I click on view project in GitHub, I will be able to see a lot of malware. Here are the malware. And I can see them. I can see different source, the original and the reversed engineer. So here a lot of things. So we can see exploit cat, Sakura. We can see some power loader ransomware. We can see, for example, some we can see also Shadowbot. So this is the original. Let's see the reversed. I will click also in the binary. I will see a lot of files here. One of them is also Shamoon. So this is one. This is the one that we can analyze, and many other things. Okay. So all of them contain some malware for analysis. And you can find link virus malware source in Eleni Zeltzer's blog. So when I click on this, it is actually, this is a scholar who has free malware sample for researcher, but some of them require registration and login. So anyone so malware research frequently seeks malware sample to analyze the threat techniques and develop defense mechanism. And in addition to download samples from known malicious URL, researchers can obtain malware sample from the following free resources. So these are different resources, but some of them require registrations in order to access them. But Malware Bazaar does not require any registration. So these are different sources of malware for analysis. Now, how can we test this malware? There are several ways. We can use either real machines or virtual machines or sandbox. If I use real machine, what do I mean by real machine? I mean a real computer, real laptop, real desktop that I can add or keep the malware inside it and perform either basic static or basic dynamic, advanced static or advanced dynamic analysis. The good thing is the real machine is that it supports because some malware, if they do know that they are within a virtual machine, they will not behave normally. But if they are within a regular environment, they will behave normally. So the good thing if we are using real machine to analyze malware is that some malware detect virtual machines and won't run properly in it. So if I use real machine, I will be able to see the real behavior of these things. But the disadvantage is that sometimes if I analyze a malware in real machine, it will be persistent. So it's become difficult to remove the malware, and re-imaging the machine will be necessary. It's not easy to clean the device from this infected malware. And sometimes this device should be disconnected, or this real machine should be disconnected from the internet. If it's disconnected from the internet, I will not see its behavior. If it is a worm, if it's a worm, it should be replicated to other devices. So I will not see the whole behavior. So no internet connection, so part of the malware may not work. I can also use virtual machines. So I can use here some virtual machines. I can use Windows and install the malware, and I can, for example, have different. But when I use this, I should not use NAT bridge or NAT network because it will be connected to my computer. So I have to, or a bridge adapter. I have to use either NAT or not attached to any network, and then analyze it to see its behavior. So this is the most common method, and this protects the host machine from malware because anything will perform the virtual machine will not be moved to the actual host. But there are some cases where the malware move from the virtual to the host, but these are very few real cases. The last thing is the sandbox, all-in-one software for basic dynamic analysis. It's this kind of virtualization environment that lets you run the malware and see its behavior. An example of this is Joe Sandbox. This is the Joe Sandbox. This is the Joe Sandbox. But it requires actually, so you can decide the architecture. Are you going to analyze a Windows malware, Mac malware, Linux, or others? And you have actually to register in order to perform any activities inside. And then you can choose the file. And I have to log in first in order to analyze this file. Last but not least is the how can we, so this is simply if we like to analyze the executable. How can I perform the basic dynamic analysis? Basic dynamic requires some analysis. And in order to perform any dynamic, I should click on it, right? So before, when I mention here, the first or the second slide, we mentioned that the malware can come in executable or script, such as shells. So the dynamic link libraries. So the executables, they can be clicked in order to analyze its behavior. But how can I analyze fileless application? How can I run it? How can I install it to see its behavior? In order to do this, in order to analyze any shell or any scripts and either basic dynamic or advanced dynamic, okay, so executable file can be run directly, but DLLs can't. How can we do? We need to use run DLL 32.exe application, and then the dynamic link library or the script or the shell script here, and then export arguments. So it will export everything. So I can use run DLL.exe, and this is the script, and install the script to see its behavior, or uninstall, or many other things. But I can use run DLL 32 in order to see how it's behaved. So tools that can support us in this is Dependency Walker, PEView, and PE Explorer. So the point is that just to mention, like for example, the executable can be either, I can easily click on them to run in them, but in the DLL, no, we have to run them through another application in order to see its behavior. Thank you so much.